What if the love you're waiting for isn't lost, late, or forgotten? What if it's being handcrafted by God in silence, shaped not just for your heart, but for your destiny? What if your soulmate isn't found by searching harder, but by becoming the person they're meant to meet? God's timing is unlike our own, and this difference in perspective often leads to a quiet internal tension. We are creatures of the clock. We plan, we schedule, we mark our lives by the ticking of seconds and the passage of seasons. But God does not operate in the confines of hours or calendars. His work is eternal, not rushed, not delayed, but always precise. The introduction of a soulmate is not merely a moment of chance. It is a divine intersection that only He can arrange, and it always occurs at the appointed time, not a minute before, not a second late. Many spend their lives anxiously seeking their soulmate, believing the sooner they find that person, the sooner life will begin to make sense. But what we often fail to understand is that God is far more interested in who we are becoming than how quickly we are matched. He sees a fuller picture than we do. The intricacies of our hearts, the hidden flaws we ignore, the wounds we have yet to acknowledge, the fears that still chain our capacity to love. And so, in His mercy, He withholds that sacred meeting until the soil of our soul has been tilled and nurtured to receive it. In our eyes, waiting often feels like punishment. In God's eyes, it is preparation. We may not understand why we must walk through seasons of loneliness, confusion, or longing. We may question why others find companionship easily, while we remain seemingly unseen. But perhaps it is in that unseen place where God is doing His most important work. He is not just delaying for the sake of it. He is aligning destinies, preparing hearts, and sometimes protecting us from encounters that would harm rather than heal. Consider the complexity of two souls, both uniquely broken, both uniquely gifted, both on different journeys of becoming. For God to bring them together prematurely would be like binding two unfinished books, pages missing, endings unwritten. The story wouldn't make sense, and worse, it could cause more damage than beauty. But when He waits, when He continues His work of healing, shaping and revealing purpose in each individual, the union becomes more than a comfort. It becomes a calling. We often ask God for answers, but He answers with seasons. Seasons of waiting are not empty, they are filled with silent miracles, quiet growth, unseen transformation. These are the seasons where your trust is tested, your patience stretched, your identity refined. It is here where God peels away the idols, confronts your illusions of love, and replaces them with truth. He does not rush this process, for rushed love often becomes wounded love. In His timing, God knows when both hearts are ready not only to meet, but to serve, to build, to endure. The soulmate He intends for you is not just someone to share laughter and comfort. They are someone who will walk with you through storms, who will lift you when you fall, who will challenge you to become the very reflection of divine love. And for such a sacred union, timing is not a small detail. It is everything. So while we may be tempted to question the wait, to compare our journey with others, or to grasp for connection in our own strength, God invites us into a different rhythm. A rhythm of surrender, where our timeline is laid down and exchanged for His. A rhythm of trust, where we stop counting days and start cultivating faith. A rhythm of grace, where we learn to find joy not in the arrival of someone, but in the presence of the one who holds all things together. When the right time comes, not the time we hoped for, but the time He appointed. Everything will make sense. The loneliness will have meaning. The delays will have served a purpose. The waiting will have deepened our capacity to love well and love rightly. And in that sacred moment, when God introduces you to the one He has written into your story, you will not resent the wait. You will bless it, because you will see that His timing was never about withholding, but about preparing you for a love that reflects His heart. Before God introduces you to your soulmate, He often takes you through a journey of transformation. This transformation is not surface, level, or cosmetic. It is deep, often painful, and profoundly necessary. It is the sacred process of becoming the person capable of loving, serving, and walking in harmony with another soul. Love, especially the kind designed by God, cannot be sustained by emotional sparks or external beauty. It must be rooted in spiritual maturity, healed identity, and a refined heart. That is why God does not merely give you a person to complete you. He completes you in Himself first. So you're not entering a relationship with half a soul looking for validation, but with a whole heart ready to give and receive love in its truest form. Transformation before connection is the pattern of heaven. God always works in the heart before He works through circumstances. He prepares you in the unseen places, in solitude, in struggle, in surrender. You begin to unlearn distorted ideas of love. You begin to see your past not as punishment, but as preparation. You realize that the heartbreaks were not meant to destroy you, but to teach you how to discern between a connection that feels good and a connection that is good for your destiny. This transformation helps you recognize what is real, what is aligned with God's purpose, and what is simply a distraction covered in charm. There are parts of you that cannot walk into a God-ordained relationship. The insecurities, the pride, the impatience, the idolization of romance, all these things must be crucified before divine union can be sustained. If they are not, they will corrupt what was meant to be a blessing. That is why God doesn't only prepare your partner for you, He prepares you for your partner. He sanctifies you. He reveals your fears, heals your wounds, and teaches you how to love without condition and to trust without fear. This is not a punishment. This is protection, not just for you, but for the person you are meant to meet. Sometimes the transformation feels lonely. Friends come and go. Seasons of isolation seem never-ending. Prayers go unanswered. But in that silence, God is doing His deepest work. He is not withholding. He is refining. He is shaping your capacity for patience, for forgiveness, for gentleness. He is making you someone who doesn't just desire love, but reflects love. You are becoming someone whose presence brings peace, whose words speak life, and whose faith uplifts rather than burdens. And when your heart begins to beat in rhythm with His, you find that you're no longer begging God for someone. You're trusting Him for His timing, because you've come to love the process of becoming. This transformation is not just for emotional balance. It is also for spiritual alignment. God doesn't join people for chemistry alone. He joins them for calling. Your soulmate is not just someone you will love. They are someone you will serve beside. You will carry spiritual weight together. You will encourage one another in purpose, battle darkness together, raise godly standards together, and build a testimony that glorifies God. That kind of partnership cannot be built on shallow foundations. It must be rooted in the Spirit. And for that, you must first become the person who knows how to stand alone with God before standing together with another. As God transforms you, He also gives you discernment. Not everything that glitters is gold, and not every connection is divine. Without inner growth, you might be tempted to settle for what is available instead of waiting for what is aligned. But with transformation comes clarity. You begin to value depth over charm, patience over passion, and purpose over preference. You stop idolizing the idea of a soulmate and start preparing for the responsibility of being one. When two transformed individuals meet, the connection is different. There is peace instead of pressure. There is mutual respect instead of control. There is joy, not because the person completes you, but because they complement who God already made you to be. You both understand that love is not the reward for waiting. It is the fruit of becoming. The transformation God leads you through is not wasted. It becomes the very foundation on which lasting love is built. And it is only when that work is finished, or at least far enough along, that God brings your soulmate into your life, not as an answer to your pain, but as a partner in your purpose. When God introduces you to your soulmate, the recognition is not based on outward beauty, style, or charisma. It is something deeper, something ancient, something the world cannot fabricate. It is soul recognition. A quiet, sacred knowing that surpasses physical attraction or shared interests. It is not love at first sight in the worldly sense, but a sense of familiarity that awakens in your spirit, as if your soul sighs and says, "There you are." This recognition does not happen in noise. It happens in peace. You don't chase it. You don't strive for it. It arrives naturally, as though two puzzle pieces finally fit together after a long wait. Worldly attraction often shouts. It dazzles the eyes and races the heart, but it burns fast and fades quickly. Soul recognition, by contrast, feels like silence after a storm. It feels like coming home after being lost in 1,000 rooms that all looked promising but never felt right. You realize that what you were searching for was never about perfection. It was about alignment, spiritual, emotional, and divine alignment. When God orchestrates the meeting, there's no need to convince, impress, or perform. There's just truth, stillness, and a deep, rooted peace that confirms this connection is different. This kind of recognition doesn't just feel sacred. It is sacred because it isn't based on human logic or emotional impulse. It's based on divine timing and heavenly design. Your soulmate is not someone you find by looking harder. They are someone you recognize when you have eyes trained by faith, not fantasy. In fact, until your spirit matures, you might pass by them and not even notice. It is only when you are healed, surrendered, and aligned with God's heart that you begin to discern what your spirit has been waiting for all along. There is a reason this recognition feels older than you. It's because the connection was designed in eternity, long before you walked this earth, before you experienced joy, heartbreak, betrayal, and growth. God already wrote a story that included someone who would walk beside you, not just romantically, but purposefully. When you meet them, you don't feel like you're starting a new story. You feel like you're continuing a conversation that began long ago. You are not building from scratch. You are reconnecting what was always meant to be. Soul recognition also brings clarity. You stop feeling confused about what love should feel like. You're no longer tormented by doubt, anxiety, or constant questioning. There's a steadiness in the connection that isn't loud, but solid. You understand each other in ways that don't require long explanations. You speak the same language without saying a word. You find that your values don't clash. They align. Your vision doesn't compete. It complements. Your presence doesn't exhaust. It restores. This is not to say the relationship is without effort or challenge. But even in disagreements, the bond doesn't weaken. There's a spiritual gravity that holds you together. You don't run at the first sign of tension, because the foundation is too deep, too holy to be shaken by momentary storms. The recognition that brought you together also sustains you in difficulty. You remember that this connection was not built on fleeting attraction, but on something far greater. Divine purpose. In this kind of relationship, you also become a mirror. Your soulmate sees you. Not the polished version you show the world, but the real you. And still, they choose you. They see your flaws and don't flinch. They witness your scars and don't retreat. And you do the same for them. Because the recognition is mutual. It's not one-sided infatuation. It's a two-way knowing that we are both flawed, but we are also being transformed. You love each other in the process, not just in the polished end result. When God reveals your soulmate, you realize love was never meant to be loud and chaotic. It was meant to be holy and secure. Soul recognition is quiet, but it is unmistakable. It doesn't fill you with fear or urgency. It grounds you. You no longer ask, "Is this right?" every hour of the day. You simply know. Because your soul does not need convincing when God has made the introduction. It has been waiting for this moment, and when it arrives, everything becomes clear. The way God leads us to our soulmate is rarely loud or dramatic. It's not usually in the noise of the world, in the chaos of our emotions, or the flashing signs we often demand. Rather, it is through the gentle whisper of the Spirit. It's subtle, quiet, and deeply peaceful. God's guidance doesn't overwhelm the senses, it calms them. When He is leading you to someone, it doesn't feel like pressure. It doesn't rush you, confuse you, or make you question your worth. Instead, it feels like clarity, not always of every detail, but of the next step. The Spirit doesn't yell, He prompts. He nudges your heart gently in a direction you may not have expected, but one that brings peace that surpasses understanding. Many expect a divine love story to come with sparks, with overwhelming emotion, with signs in the sky. But God often bypasses theatrics in favor of truth. When He is at work, He doesn't need to stir emotional frenzy. He plants stillness. He places assurance deep in your spirit. You may not be able to explain it to others, but you will know. You won't feel like you are chasing after something elusive. You will feel invited, gently, lovingly, into something real. The Spirit leads by aligning your values, your convictions, your purpose. This alignment isn't always apparent at first glance. It unfolds slowly, like the rising of the sun. There's no fanfare, just light beginning to touch places that were once dark. In this kind of leading, you begin to notice that the connection doesn't pull you away from God. It draws you nearer to Him. You pray more. Not because you're afraid of losing someone, but because you want to protect what is being built. The peace that accompanies this kind of relationship is not shallow or fragile. It is rooted in the unshakable knowledge that God is present in the midst of it. The leading of the Spirit also comes through conviction, not condemnation, but holy prompting. If something feels wrong, even if it looks perfect on the outside, the Spirit speaks. That check in your heart, that unease that can't be explained. These are often God's way of saying, "Not this one." It takes spiritual maturity to listen to these whispers rather than override them with emotion. When your heart wants something, but the Spirit says wait or walk away, obedience becomes the gateway to protection. But when your heart is surrendered, and the Spirit confirms the connection, you will feel a kind of rest in your soul that no human logic can replicate. Sometimes God leads through alignment of circumstances, through open and closed doors, but more often He leads through the quiet agreement between your heart and His Word. You begin to notice that you're not trying to force compatibility. You're not trying to reshape yourself to be accepted. You are fully yourself, and they are fully themselves, and still the connection feels right. That ease is often a sign that God is the one orchestrating the path. This silent leading also requires discernment. There will always be noise. The opinions of friends, the expectations of culture, the memories of past hurt. But the Spirit doesn't compete with noise. He waits until you're still enough to hear Him. This is why many miss the leading. They're moving too fast, too focused on appearances, too distracted by timing. But the Spirit leads best in surrender. When your desire is not to be loved at any cost, but to be aligned with God's will, then your ears are opened, and your heart is softened to hear His direction. In the process of leading, God doesn't just point you to someone. He also speaks to your inner world. He confirms your worth. He restores your perspective. He brings healing where you didn't even know you were wounded. By the time you recognize the one, He's been preparing for you. You will also recognize that He's been preparing you all along. And you'll look back and realize that every delay, every no, every redirection was not rejection. It was careful orchestration. The Spirit was guiding you all along, not through thunder, but through the quiet winds of divine peace. When God introduces you to your soulmate, the connection is never just about emotional comfort or romantic fulfillment. It is rooted in something far deeper: purpose. God does not pair souls merely for companionship. He joins them for divine assignment. This relationship is not just about what feels good, but what bears fruit. It is not just for you to enjoy, but for the world to witness what love looks like when it is shaped by heaven. A soulmate, in the spiritual sense, is someone with whom you can build something greater than yourselves. It is not about finding someone who completes you, but someone who complements your calling and sharpens your spirit. Purpose is what differentiates a divine relationship from a casual one. It is the difference between being entertained and being transformed. When God is in the center of a relationship, both individuals begin to realize that their union has weight. It is meant to bless others, serve the kingdom, raise children in truth, carry burdens together, and walk in the kind of unity that reflects God's love to the world. This isn't the kind of relationship that only exists for date nights and holidays. It's the kind of relationship that survives storms, resists temptation, and endures seasons of suffering. Not because the couple is strong, but because their foundation is unshakable. God-designed soulmates are co-laborers. They see life through a lens of shared mission. Their love does not shrink when tested, it stretches. It adapts, it serves, it sacrifices. They pray together, not just when things are falling apart, but as a daily act of surrender. They speak life into each other, remind each other of identity when the world tries to steal it, and cover each other in grace when human weakness shows up. Their unity becomes a weapon against darkness, not just a comfort zone in times of ease. This is why God is careful with the timing of such a union. If either soul is still in love with their own comfort, still chasing validation, or still unsure of their identity, the relationship will collapse under the weight of its own divine purpose. Purpose-filled love demands growth. It calls both people to rise higher. It doesn't settle. It confronts laziness in character, challenges immaturity, and encourages selflessness. Your soulmate isn't someone who only agrees with you. They challenge you in love, call out your potential, and remind you of what God spoke over your life. They are not threatened by your strength. They celebrate it. They don't compete with your dreams. They help you carry them. And in return, you do the same. This kind of mutual support isn't romantic fantasy. It's the mark of a spiritual covenant. Many long for love that feels good, but few understand the responsibility that comes with love that is purposeful. It's not about being perfect for each other. It's about being willing to fight for each other's souls. It's about walking together when the feelings are gone, when the answers are unclear, and when the world tries to pull you apart. Purpose keeps you rooted when emotions waver. It keeps your eyes on the bigger picture. It helps you see that your love is not just about happiness. It's about holiness. In a purpose-driven relationship, the focus shifts from, "What do I want from this person?" to, "How can we glorify God together?" You begin to pray differently. You ask, "God, how can we serve others through this union? How can we reflect your grace in our love? How can we carry out your will as one?" And God honors those questions. He strengthens those who are willing to walk in unity, not just for personal gain, but for divine impact. This kind of relationship becomes a sanctuary, not because it is free from flaws, but because it is full of grace. When both people understand that their love was designed for something eternal, every disagreement becomes a moment to learn, every obstacle a reason to pray, and every season an opportunity to grow. You begin to see that you are not just lovers. You are builders, intercessors, servants, and soldiers in the same spiritual battle. When God introduces you to your soulmate, it's not just to fulfill your desires, but to fulfill your destiny. You realize that the relationship itself is a form of worship, a testimony, and a tool for kingdom work. You stop looking for someone to fill your emptiness, and start looking for someone with whom you can overflow. Together, you carry out not just a romantic story, but a divine assignment, one that echoes beyond time and leaves a legacy of love shaped by heaven. What often feels like a delay in love is, in truth, a divine design. In our human impatience, we interpret waiting as absence, silence as rejection, and delay as denial. But God's timeline is not designed to satisfy our urgency. It is meant to fulfill our purpose. When He withholds the appearance of a soulmate, He is not being cruel, indifferent, or distant. He is being intentional. The silence that accompanies the wait is not empty. It is full of divine activity. Behind the curtain of your understanding, God is arranging hearts, healing wounds, and shaping the path that will eventually bring two souls together in perfect time. We live in a culture that celebrates instant gratification. Love is expected to appear like a lightning bolty, sudden, dazzling, immediate. But heaven's way is different. It is often quiet, slow, and deeply sacred. The very love you are waiting for might be delayed, because God is shielding you from settling for a lesser version of it. He sees what you cannot. He knows what would break you if it came too soon. He sees the immature places in your heart, the unhealed wounds, the hidden pride, the false identities you still cling to. He sees that love, when rushed, can become a substitute for wholeness instead of a companion to it. God is not just protecting you from the wrong people. He's protecting you from becoming the wrong version of yourself in a relationship that wasn't meant for you. He is not slow. He is deliberate. He waits because he loves. He knows that two souls coming together prematurely can harm one another. The qualities you hope to find in another: faithfulness, emotional strength, wisdom, security, are often the very things he is developing in you during the delay. You are not simply waiting for someone to love. You are becoming someone who knows how to love well. The delay is not passive. It is transformational. Delays strip away illusions. They force you to confront your own heart, your motives, your weaknesses. You begin to realize that you once desired a soulmate, not from wholeness, but from loneliness, not from calling, but from comparison. Over time, God purifies your desire. He removes the fear of missing out and replaces it with the joy of being found in Him. He teaches you that love is not something you chase, but something that is added when you seek first His kingdom and His righteousness. You learn to lay down your timeline and pick up your cross. To surrender your desire not because it is wrong, but because it is sacred. In the delay, God builds resilience. He teaches you how to trust when you can't trace, how to walk in peace when your future feels undefined, how to rejoice with others when their promises come before yours. The wait becomes a holy training ground, a spiritual wilderness where your identity is refined. You stop measuring your worth by your relationship status and begin to measure it by the faithfulness of the one who holds your story. And it's there, in the place of surrender, that something shifts. You're no longer looking for a partner to escape your loneliness. You're waiting for someone to join your purpose. God's delays also create divine alignment. He is not only preparing your heart, He is preparing the heart of your future spouse. Their journey matters just as much as yours. Perhaps they are still healing. Perhaps they are still learning how to pray, how to lead, how to be emotionally available. Perhaps they are learning how to love God more deeply so they can love you more honestly. You may not see their side of the story, but God is writing it. He does not rush them either, because He knows that the kind of love He's preparing you both for must be rooted in Him. And so, what feels like delay is often divine choreography, a sacred pause in your story where nothing is wasted. Not the tears, not the unanswered prayers, not the silent seasons. All of it becomes preparation. All of it becomes holy ground. One day, you will look back and see that the wait was not a void, but a womb, a place where your faith matured, your soul healed, and your heart was readied to recognize the one God chose for you. You will not meet them with desperation. You will meet them with joy. Because you will understand that what looked like a delay was really divine design, lovingly crafted by the hands that know the end from the beginning. In the end, the way God introduces you to your soulmate is not marked by chaos, confusion, or desperation. It is marked by peace, purpose, and divine timing. Every season of waiting, every moment of solitude, every silent prayer is not in vain. God uses the delay to refine you, to prepare your heart, to align your path with someone who isn't just a romantic partner, but a spiritual companion. This love doesn't come to complete you. It comes to join you in your calling. It doesn't come to rescue you from loneliness. It comes to walk with you in purpose. When it happens, it will not feel like striving or guessing. It will feel like recognition, like clarity, like peace. Because God doesn't just give you love. He gives you a glimpse of Himself through someone who reflects His heart. And when that moment comes, you'll understand why it had to take time. You weren't just waiting for a person. You were becoming the person who could carry this kind of love.